Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Namaskar. This is Engineer Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India. On this day, January 7, 2022, Friday, early morning, this is 3. आज का दिन January 7, 2022, शुक्रवार सुबह के 3:40 and this talk regarding same as usual, you can say series of quality and safety in our life, as particularly in major investments. Title is same, quality starts with quality, and of course concrete is very, you can say, it's highly required material in construction and in life. So I am more interested in concrete quality, concrete specifications, and we can say engineering in field of civil field engineering, and of course life and engineers, life of engineers or life engineers. I'm calling life engineers because engineers are for life and not for any particular duration. And of course there is quality requirement and AnnexSL, which we have discussed, we have deliberated, but just reference is also made because structure of quality and it should perform, and of course contracts, that is red, silver, white books, along with safety, health and environment. These are major requirements in life and in engineering, whereas if you just take specifically contracts, there may be some disputes, we have to just think of that as well. And our system that is based on communication and coordination, signals are down. It happens in beginning itself, signals are down. Let us see if I speak goes in or doesn't go in, I can't say. But communication and coordination can't be stopped. Very bad FPS, only one. Signals are only 42 kbps and audio is only 1.94 kbps. Well, let's see and go and see what to do. Here is my identification. You can see email ID is given in this. If you wish, you can note it down. It is SURAJ. Suraj is my name, underscore, and then engineer, same spelling as engineer, ENGINEER. Maintained by, for India, by Institution of Engineers, and I am by educational qualification a civil engineering graduate, having adequate experience to advise and lead those who want work in field. I have done many projects. In my life. I just introduce myself sometimes, means passed my education of school, secondary education, higher education, you can say, not secondary, in 1971. Then I qualified civil engineering diploma in from Delhi in 1974, and I then qualified civil engineering degree, equivalent degree, in 1980 from Institution of Engineers, India. This is my basics. Then I worked overseas. First I worked in Delhi during my period of diploma and degree, about 6 years. On supervision of jobs of government, that was Delhi Development Authority. Then I went to join Iraq, where I worked on for about 2 years on building projects. And then I worked in Libya for about 2 years. And after that, I joined Gulf countries, GCC, Doha, Qatar. I worked in almost for 6 years in you can say in fragments, and also I worked in Abu Dhabi, UAE for about 6 years, and that is also in fragments. I worked in Saudi Arabia for about 6 months. Likewise, I worked in here in India, Bharat, as practicing consultant or as writer of books, or as you can say communicator, whatever you can say. I also have been consultant on arbitration mechanism, or to counsel, or to can say advice on arbitration of disputes. I have worked for many contracting companies, many EPCs. I worked in designs and engineering coordination, and likewise you can say I have adopted habit of writing, thinking, and you can say charting out procedures. Charting out procedures, and that is what is required in engineering, particularly in construction engineering, because construction engineering is something that is manufactured and used. It's not simply delivered product. It's not simply delivered product. It is something that we have to say concrete terminology allows and involves. So I can say this certificate only for reference, that person should be clear while talking to people or interacting tacitly or silently. And that's what I say, quality of my country is important to me, and it's not my country alone, I can say. Manufacturing products, both are important, and we have to be serious about that. When I see our country and compare to where I worked, I find major difference. The difference is, of course, these are very common, sensible also, because of what we have developed in our working culture and what we should have. There's a difference of this. Of course, we people in this country are not backward in education. We have advanced a lot in education, and I should feel pride like all others citizens in my country. We developed Gulf councils countries. We developed Libya. We developed African countries, and particularly where civil engineering development or life development goes on. You can't compare development of Gulf and USA or England, because those cannot develop as Middle East has developed. I find there's a difference, and it's because of funding. You can say Middle East has got capacity to fund, and that's why they spent a lot. And particularly Gulf CC countries, GCC countries, you can say, wherever these are UAE, Qatar, Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, and whatsoever, they have enough money, they have enough budget, and they have spent that budget for development of their countries. And because they believe in something, they decide, they do it. But we decide only, we don't do it. That's only difference. Those people, of course, those people in Gulf countries and Middle East, I still remember my time when I worked in Iraq, in Baghdad, in Mosul area, Shirkat. I still remember level of quality in 1981, 1982, 1983. In those days, there were no systems, no computers, only calculators were used. There was, you can say, manual drawings production, everything writing, at most typed. Life progression was not that fast, but because people believed in quality, checking of works was very seriously done. Same way, prosecution of work was done. Of course, it was advanced technology, equipment were available. Those equipments which I used and observed in 1981 were not even thought of in our country. Nobody knew that there was some excavator machine. Nobody knew here that there was some pump, concrete pump, stationary pump, or you can say mobile pump. But I have seen work them. Nobody had imagination here that there were some machines or plants like batching concrete plant. What I say, a lot of difference, a difference of decades, you can say 20 years difference in transfer of technology because of lack of communication, lack of mobility. And I learned something, you can say, if I compare my career when I was in college student, I was in university, and when I passed out my diploma or degree, whatever, when I passed out degree, I thought I was having good knowledge of engineering. But when I joined and started job in construction particularly, and then in design both, design is controlled by formula, design is controlled by procedures. No one can change that. That's also true. Of course, you can conceive something, but you have to justify according to theoretical requirement, according to set procedures. So you can say design to some extent or to major extent is controlled. You cannot do your way. You have to justify it per material stresses and according to codes or according to first principles, what we learn in books in university. We cannot divert from that. So I'm not worried about designs. But when you implement that design through construction, it's that time my worry stands. They are very excellent, extremely good designers in our country, in every country, and now there is no dearth. And in that time, talking of, also there was no dearth. I experienced some designs from English people, from French people, and from many other parts of world. I found that design was not a problem. But I only learned something there which I could not learn here in our country. That designs were produced by European people, English people were elaborate. It was like, you just see, read drawing and do it. Means diagrammatical or schematical method statements were also provided, not in text form but in drawing form. Means just go on reading drawing. You still remember one drawing set from France that was, I still don't remember exactly name of that company, but it was complete details of how foundations were to be constructed, and foundations of generators, foundations of radiator, and foundations of building. In a scheme form, in a schematic form, in sketch form, it was given like method statement. It was interesting. Sometimes you feel that even if you don't have experience, you read those drawings and don't worry about specifications because very specific requirements are given on drawings. You just read them. Of course, there were some non-English words as well which were in their own language, but when you refer it to sketches or drawings or sections, it doesn't make a difference. Language is not a big problem because of drawings, because drawing itself is a language of engineering. Primary language of engineering is drawing. We call drawing as engineering language, which everybody can understand. Even if you are not an engineer, but you have experience, you can understand what's given there. So I, at that time, I had no major experience, learned a lot from those people around Middle East, and I realized that I knew nothing. After, of course, by your education, you are theoretical engineers. I was a theoretical engineer. I knew how to do because I did not learn anything in my 6 years duration of government job. That was state government and it was Delhi Development Authority. My responsibility was to supervise contractors' work. And contractors, in our country, what is understood about. Well, I do not backbite anything, but I did not learn anything. I can say I did not realize in those 6 years what is value of quality, what is value of specification. People used to call quality, but they did not understand what quality was. For them, it was specification. Okay, I comply with this, but I did not see anyone worry about specifications. They're more interested in rates and prices. They're more interested in making claims. Likewise, but when I compared my working conditions in this country those days in 80s to what was in Gulf countries, other countries, Libya, I was shocked. Means they were really professionals, even if many of them were not engineers, but they were working engineers. Somebody told me there are two types of engineers. One are those who are qualified, having certain titles of degrees, while there were another class which called company produced engineers. Well, people think that way. You have to listen to everybody, but I found a difference. Yes, if you are academically qualified and you want to learn, you can learn a lot. There is no limit. But you are not academically qualified, you have just by virtue of experience, then you have no scope at all except that whatever is instructed, you do it again and again. And that's it. So I really realized that my academics, of course, it was theoretical, it was okay as far as theory is concerned, that was okay. When it comes to practical work, it does not wait for, I could not wait. Only that I could apply theory, I could understand that. And you have even applications sometimes were not easy because advanced technology was available, advanced drawings were available. What was required to do, you have to think on that. Every activity you have to think. You cannot say, oh, I refer it to my education and that I can. No, it's not. It's not equally practical. Because what we learned was different. Means I've seen that you have to go into depth of working, how to assemble steel reinforcement, how to do formworks, until you have practical experience of that side. Whatever degree you have, I respect degrees, I don't say no. Without degree, I can't be anything. But I cannot limit myself to knowledge of degrees, in engineering particularly. It may be diploma, it may be degree, it may be post-graduation, it may be doctorate or whatever. These degrees are okay in their places. These are knowledge books. And we cannot move without knowledge books. But transfer of this knowledge into field, into works, is main question. Can we do that? How to do that? Reason being, construction engineering, design engineering, both are factors in work engineering. We have to work some concept through designs and through procedures into physical entity, creating assets. Our investment on construction is called asset. That assets, call it because it's not 1 or 2 days requirement. These products are meant for whole life. And that's why asset. Civil engineers' job is to create permanent assets. Yes, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, IT engineers, and all others also create assets but not whole life belonging assets. Those are for couple of years. But when you think of you work in civil construction, you have major responsibility, higher responsibility because you produce whole life usable assets. And because civil engineering is only field, is only branch of engineering where generally in RCC if you say manufacturing is done by yourself into product. It's not ready-made machine you buy and install or erect and commission. That's difference. In mechanical, design is also available, but mechanical design is entirely different. It's functional related. It's not structural related. Machines are not important as far as structure is concerned, but use of machine, technology on machine, that is design part. How to design whole machine and how to design every spare part or included part. And it applies to electrical as well. There is load also in electrical, there is load also in mechanical. Those loads are in terms of horsepower, and in electrical those loads are in terms of kilowatt. Those loads are different. Those are risky loads. Those are loads related to safety of equipment, safety of balancing of loads. But when loads are concerned in civil engineering, it's a real load. Load in the sense there's physical load, many classes of loads or actions, and it's, you can say, whole design is whole design of construction engineering, civil engineering, design engineering. There is, you can say, limitless it is. You cannot measure its limits. You cannot even list out, chart out how many designs are available, how many elements are available, and how many you can work with. As a student of engineering, I find it limitless. Various subjects are there: concrete, structural steel, pre-stressed concrete, or you can say stone engineering, brick engineering. Likewise, currently RCC and structural steel are important material. Of course, pre-stressed concrete is also important, but major is in common life pre-stressing is not used. In common life, RCC is used, which we call reinforced cement concrete, with variations, of course. It's not. If you compare civil structural engineering, or I mean to say RCC engineering, and structural engineering, structural steel engineering, there's a difference. Structural steel, as far as civil construction is concerned, civil engineer is concerned, is job of design and erection, not manufacturing. Manufacturing of structural steel is no domain of civil engineers. Their mechanical engineers or chemical processing is required. But in RCC construction, manufacturing is also job of civil engineer. So this is where difference lies in. Civil engineer is more responsible in RCC designs, pre-stressed designs. Therefore, quality control, quality requirement is of highest demand. Is of highest demand in civil, and that is only. It's not that high in other branches of engineering as well. There are many branches of engineering nowadays, 15 or more, maybe 20, and only branches civil, where design and its world of classification is vast, and vast in the sense all major constructions are related to, from ordinary room or from ordinary sewer line or water line to major dams, to high towers, which includes network of all roads and you can say infrastructure as well as superstructures of all sorts, biggest airports, biggest plants, nuclear power structures, pipeline, longest pipelines, buildings, etc., etc. You count, you speak, and you relate it to civil engineering. Even your structural steel foundations, structural steel fireproofing, particularly foundations, are done in concrete. Foundations are done in concrete, and sometimes structural columns are also encased by concrete because of making them fireproof. Just a reference. That's only. Now, quality of structural steel is in the hands of those industries who produce them, who manufacture them. You can only select. Sections are standard one. You cannot say for a specific project, I want this section. It's not available in standards of that organization or manufacturing company or industry, but you can't design that way. You have to select from standards one. You cannot say it's my personal customized. I want this. You have no choice, You can't say for one building they have to manufacture a different one. Well, what I'm saying is I stress on this because quality in concrete, as far as I understand, is deteriorating and has gone to lowest or minus level. That's the only reason I ask, where does quality exist? And that question is very specific, particularly for whole engineering industry, not only in civil engineering but elsewhere as well. But more concerned about assets. If my machine doesn't work for 5 years or 6 years, it starts demanding repairs. All right, fine, what to do? Ultimately, one day it is replaced. It cannot live with me forever, but my house shall live with me forever. My building shall live with me forever. My foundations have to stay with me or my generations to come. That's why I say, I may leave this world, but that building may stay here. We may leave all, but our assets will be here. That's why I say we have to think differently, at least in construction world. In civil engineering world, a difference is automatically established, which we do not particularly refer to because we never think that way. I'm not I'm not referring to something new. It is practical. We have to think about. And that's why I say thinking is always important. Without thinking, nothing is going to work. And usually I put in my file always. You see, if you move this file and see one, and I say think about quality always. Think about communication and coordination, and you have to think about everything, every action, quality, SHE, economics, contracts, products, and we have to think quality in construction, quality in production, SHE required everywhere, during manufacturing, in processing, in construction activities, and also during use of products and whatever services we are, and we have to involve here with that. There is no way to respond no to these questions. Everybody must ask, no way out, and without good quality compliance applications a must. Good SG compliance applications, and we can say that's the reason I'm trying to want to spy. I can say no one has got any right to condemn quality requirements because quality is also paid for when product is purchased. If we know quality, we should not have any pain, and if we don't know quality, we shall feel some kind of pain, and that's what I say. Quality ranges in elaborations depending on indicative descriptions. We don't want to develop dirty. We don't want to develop through robbers or through thieves, but through engineers. And there exists no future if no quality persists. And quality's specified requirements must be met in all respects. We don't expect any excuse, we don't admit any excuse for quality failure. Engineers must understand and realize that quality is a must. Quality is a must, and in fact, it is civil engineer who has to change because quality aspects of society, or else quality cannot exist. I stress here civil because civil changes our life. Maybe civil engineers don't earn money, other engineers earn, but my point of view does not measure here earning capacity. It doesn't accept earning capacities criteria, but it accepts production work in construction with quality. And we have to chart out our ways how to achieve it, and for that we can say construction method statements also a kind of discipline for specialty or for specialization. It is a must in current world. Method statement for work, or you can say work procedure for activities, is a must, and it should tell formally about what is to be done on works, and that must be done for quality realization, or else there can be no real control on works and therefore on projects. We may say expression of specific details in convenient format for work performance and define elaborate performance. No work can be carried out in defined and designed sequence, and because of it output suffers, and it results in bad standards of work products. Therefore, method statement is a must, otherwise people shall do their way and it will adversely impact quality. And if we cannot lose time, because once time goes, it can't come back, and we say time is irrecoverable, for it never comes back if it is lost without application of required controls. And cost is invariable, unchangeable. It leads to escalation if it's not properly controlled. And of course, risks are involved, which can be foreseen by experienced professionals. And we can say we can avoid damages if we can understand risk in advance. And you can say inexperienced engineers may prove inefficient in viewing such risks based emergencies, and therefore thorough deliberations or brainstorming must be conducted based on available data input. Risks must be clearly understood and defined to reach its necessary resolution and convert to work convenience, or else risk can be very expensive in terms of lives and costs, and we then say reliability, which is must to be created, we can say established. We have to establish in profession that our goods are reliable, our construction is reliable, our work is reliable, and it is very important. And it should be defined properly in our achievements, in our procedures, in our details. And we can simply write equation that reliability is equal to safety from all involved factors added by successful serviceability of intended purpose and further added by mandated durability of its working life, and also supported by all other necessary resources involved and applicable knowledge areas, factors, which resources must be understood and achieved in all procedures, or else one should learn before taking responsibility, and all foregoing issues must be considered along with all possible risks, or else if we fail, all efforts go in vain. That's why we say analysis is a major tool in engineering designs and in engineering construction. You can say it's professional master tool for work contemplation and is considered an exclusive engineering and life-oriented basis, an intellectual tool that can penetrate into all problems and unearth required solutions. There is no way from where or through which analysis approaches could be avoided. It's a must to understand all problems, and we can then, after solutions, connect these problems, mix them, join them, and that's called synthesis. An analytical based engineering result, that is synthesis. An analytical based engineering result to apply. An analytical based performance provides a chain of solutions, linking of which or that sequence can be named synthesis. After all, solutions are integrated by requirement of suitability. Then I can say thinking. In Hindi also written, but thinking and concentration, which I was referring to, thinking and concentration, certain powers to achieve everything, valued, unlimited, and only way, an exclusive way for reaching solutions. Thinking based on contemplation again and again and again must be achieved. That's what it says. Design and prosecution works, applications must be affected. Engineering and business are the yoke, but quality, non-conformance product is called substandard and therefore rejected because it's against engineering and source nature, for natural materials are wasted without any optimum gains. Non-conformance means engineer is either careless, to be very frank. Non-conformance means engineer is careless, engineer is ignorant, engineer is incompetent, and therefore redundant personnel. We must change to meet requirements to achieve intended equality standards for universal recognition of products or goods. Therefore, quality requirements checks being must, missing which we have to blame ourselves for quality achievement failure. Engineering means quality application and continuous improvement of quality. Exists no way not to comply with defined or specified quality labels, because definition of quality is a must, and that definition requires to be achieved, or else work leads to status of being unsuccessful and to be reperformed. Engineers are problem solvers and not problem creators. They are problem developers. Work developers, agents of change. And main point here is engineer can change. Engineer can convert a forest or a desert to a city or an industrial town for which quality, safety, health and environment play integrated and much vital roles in all respects. Quality can never be and must not be compromised by engineers and public, and if done without quality, one or you have acted against profession and nature. And that's why I say communication and coordination must are most significant disciplines and subjects, we can say. Without communication and without coordination, which is in sequence of communication, most significant disciplines these are, and we must understand them. Specifications we have to understand, we have to write, we have to define, otherwise we cannot do anything. We say, stop doing work without thorough understanding. Stop doing work without thorough understanding. Applicable specifications we cannot carry out work without thorough comprehending specifications. All in Hindi, you can read yourself, no problem. Demand written document, and procedures to carry out works, and stop believing on verbatims. This was what I said about my sometimes I about that's important. And here is that, what about quality in our country? There can be many questions raised, and we say material of course is important. What resources we employ for doing work are also important, very important. What sort of workers, what sort of professionals we employ also is very important. Every resource we use should be important. What sort of design we have done is also important. There are so many importance in engineering. If you sum up all those importance, you will find quality. Now it depends what type of material we are using. And here I can say, I consider efforts of professionals, efforts done by engineers, efforts done by engineering staff, efforts done by workers on site. Everybody has a role in works. And I consider this role, these efforts, these activities they perform also material. Though it's mind based, it's thoughtful based, and where we can say all this can be named intellectual material. It's not only intellectual technology or information technology we call it, it's also intellectual technology. How one performs, how one thinks, and how and what way an engineer thinks and does. All this amount to, you can say, some kinds of resource. So we can say material resource, machine resource or equipment resource, or you can say whatever else resource we have from internal as well as external sources, and ultimately resource that is human resource, we can say performing resource. We may say personal, all classes of personal from top to bottom in whatever role, design role, construction role, or whatever role separately in quality system, in planning, in safety, or else. These roles are all, you can say, intellectual roles. Everybody can use this role if one is well qualified and trained. This means these resources are very significant, and we can say particularly performing personal resources. I differentiate between two, performing personal and normal personal. We include and we consider that engineering workers cannot be non-performing. You use mind work or work by mind or work by physique. Both are called performances. If we can train our performance and continue to train them so that they remain fit in industry, then we can say allowance to them free hand, quality can come in. And if you don't allow, quality won't come in. Civil engineering construction is such a product where a common person cannot understand quality because it's not ordinary machine or ordinary article that can be used by an individual. An individual can understand system's performance, how does that product perform. But in civil engineering or in assets for permanence, this can't be checked. We have to understand structures, but structures don't understand us. That's what I say. Understanding quality is very difficult if we do not know complete requirements. When we want to construct something, there are so many stages of construction, there are so many points, so many disciplines and subdisciplines that are required from stage to stage, from time to time. And those must be valued properly. If you don't value them, you cannot do anything. And that's the reason I say, what about materials? What about, major materials or minor materials? What about, you can say, sometimes we procure many parts in mechanical world, machines for machines. How these relate to life? How these relate to equality? Well, I understand quality cannot be confined to one area. There are so many areas involved in construction engineering, so many areas, and those areas are varied. Different disciplines are involved, different subdisciplines are involved, and therefore, if you have to keep up, it's not only in our country, I say for every country, quality has to be specifically achieved. It's not simply we just pour in concrete and say it's done. Technology is great, material is great, but if individuals, if those personnel who involved with this, if they are not committed, there shall be a problem. We have to answer questions like what about major material, concrete, in structure? What about major materials that are permanently included in structures and buildings? What about engineering materials being used to produce various hundred parts goods in manufacturing? What's provision by government to force productions and constructions be delivered with quality compliance? What's reason that quality requirement is being ignored by this nation or our nation? What reason does exist that engineers are not able to conduct required role forwards towards quality domain? Been observed among engineers from all branches about quality requirement with no known reason. Zero signals at this moment. I am not sure. That's why I hold video is zero, audio is zero. Some has come back, so I continue very low FPS. No seriousness has been observed among engineers from all branches about quality requirement with no known reason. No material in market is available that can give quality performance. Yet quality mark is owned by material manufacturers. How is it possible? This means quality certification is not perfect. Whether or not private or government quality exists, nowhere. Don't consider sector only. In private sector, in government sector, quality exists nowhere. But in lip service it exists. I can do it, I shall do it. It is easy to say, but when you do it, your lips are tight and closed. Reliability goes to publicity. Reliability goes to lip service. Reliability goes only to advertisement. And that is what I say. If you want to deceive consumer or purchaser, you spend money on advertisements and publicity, which does not result in anything. And we can say money goes into water. It goes waste. And I will show that engineers have forgotten quality, or they did not study, you can say. Even if they studied, they forgot it. About what does quality mean? What does quality mean? Every organization is certified formally, but if it doesn't produce quality product, that certificate is just a piece of paper or a soft copy, nothing else. Problem is no one bothers. If you consider government or state, it doesn't bother. If you consider, you can say personal in companies or in organizations or institutions, they too do not bother. If they do not bother, who bothers? Suffering of quality bothers. Professional engineers never bother because they have gotten no independent standing, are unable to fight against. So many points can be discussed in this means I'm not interested to read them all. My interest goes to concrete technology that I discussed till now. We discussed about many items. We discussed about AF ratio, Abraham's law, abrasion damage, abrasion resistance, absolute volume, absorbed moisture, absorbed water, absorption number. If I'm not wrong, where we were, I have to be specific about that. It was good discussion in these papers, for it is concrete that is very significant part of engineering work, and we have to do it, and it is really very interesting, you can say, to some extent. And let me blow it first before it does 150. I keep it better so that we can see it better. 170 of taking it, 170, let us say 180, let us say, so as much as better it is. So I go back and see, say we did this, it's page, I think, which one, I don't know, batch and all we covered. Batch here we covered, and we covered batten, outside bay beam test, we covered all these, we covered. Blast furnace we covered, of course. We have covered, I think it is, I block beam blow up, bond area break, bond stress we considered, and also box out upper we considered. I think many pages we have considered that. Broadcast, boom, burnish, broadcast, bush hammer, Asian, calcine, butter, bush hammer, bundle parts, burnishing, then bush hammer, and then butt joint, butter, no, buttress, cable cage cation, no, this we did not do, calcium, so we say here, stand burlap, butter, okay, let's think, bulking, we did bulking with the bulking factor, bull float, and we said that burned bars, burn ship, cable, cage, alright, we start here, butt joint, bush hammer, burnishing, let us start with here, what is bundle bar, and what is, we say bundle bars, a group of not more than 4 parallel reinforcing bars in contact with each other, usually tied together. Burlap, a coarse fabric of jute, hemp, or less commonly flax, for use as water retaining covering in curing concrete surfaces. It's also called Hessian. So we had talked about this. Just refreshing. Burnishing, hard trouble with surface of concrete or plaster up to time of final setting. Bush hammer, hammer having a serrated face as rows of pyramidal points used to roughen or dress a surface. To finish a concrete surface by application of bush hammer. And butt joint, a plain square joint between two members and butter, that is, to spread mortar on masonry unit with a trowel. process by which interior of concrete mixer, transportation unit or other item come in contact with fresh concrete is provided with mortar coating to that finished concrete coming in contact with it will not be depleted of mortar, but is a projecting structure to suffer either a wall or a building. Butyl stearate, a colorless, oily, and practically odorless material. We discussed about that C17H, I think 35CO, C4, so used as an admixture for concrete to provide damp-proofing. Cable is a tendon, and K is a rigid assembly of reinforcement ready for placing in position. That is case. Cation, so cable is a tendon, then cage, assembly of reinforcement used in construction, and of course now cation is part of a foundation, a watertight chamber used in construction underwater, or a hollow floating box. Hollow floating box used as a floodgate for a dock or basin. Calcareous, that is, which contains calcium carbonate or less generally containing element calcium. Calcine, to alter composition of physical state by heating below temperature of fusion, that is calcine. Alter composition of physical state by heating below temperature of fusion, and calcite is mineral having composition calcium carbonate. Calcite is mineral having composition calcium carbonate CaCO3 and a specific crystal structure. Principal constituent of limestone, chalk and marble. A major constituent of manufacture of Portland cement. Calcium, a silver white metallic element of alkaline earth group occurring naturally only in combination with elements. We may say there's another product, that is calcium sulfoaluminate content. We cement. We studied also this, but just repeating. Product obtained by pulverizing clinker containing mainly ilmenite, that is C2L2, L2O. You can see that are often used in expensive cements and ultra high early strength cements. Used in concrete, that is calcium chloride, a crystalline solid primarily used in concrete as an accelerating admixture. Calcium chloride solution, that is in aqueous solutions of calcium, and calcium hydroxide is hydrated lime. Calcium hydroxide is hydrated lime, COH. Calcium stearate, CaC18H35(2), commonly marketed in powder form, insoluble in water, used as a water repellent, water water repellent. Let's go on. Hold on. This is calcium aluminum cement. Water repellent admixture in concrete, that is calcium stearate. It's commonly marketed in powder form, insoluble in water, used as water repellent admixture in concrete, calcium stearate, water repellent admixture in concrete. Calcium aluminate cement, product obtained by pulverizing clinker, consisting essentially of hydraulic calcium aluminates resulting from fusion or sintering a suitably proposed mixture of aluminous and calcareous material called high alumina cement, calcium silicate brick. Calcium silicate brick, a concrete product made principally from sand and lime that is hardened by autoclave curing. Calcium silicate brick, a concrete product made principally from sand and lime that is hardened by autoclave curing. Calcium silicate hydrate, primary product of silicate. Primary product of silicate reactions that contribute to concrete strength. Calcium silicate hydrate, primary product of silicate reactions that contribute to concrete strength and density. Also dicalcium silicate and tricalcium silicate. Let me see full page. I'm just finding a little different. $170. Right. Also, you can say calcium silicate hydrate, primary product of silicate reactions that contribute to concrete strength, or you can say dicalcium silicate and tricalcium silicate, which provides strength to concrete. Calcium silicate, primary product of silicate reactions that contribute to concrete strength and density, and also are available dicalcium silicate or tricalcium silicate. Calc, C-A-L-L, calish, C-L-I-C-H. Calish is a gravel, sand and desert. Gravel, sand and desert debris cemented by calcium carbonate or other salts. California bearing ratio, CBR, you know very well, a method to determine load bearing capacity of soil, and that's for roads purposes, airport highways purposes. Calorimeter, an instrument for measuring heat exchange during a chemical reaction. Calorimeter is an instrument for measuring heat exchange during a chemical reaction, such as quantity of heat liberated by combustion of fuel or hydration of cement. Camber is a deflection that is intentionally built into a structural element or form to improve appearance or to compensate for deflection of element under effects of loads, shrinkage and creep, canister type anchor bolt. Anchorage assembly that includes a sleeve, a threaded rod, and means of removing rod and adjusting rod location, projection and tension. Scant strip, chamfer strip, cap, cap strip. Cap is smooth, plain surface. A smooth, plain surface of suitable material bonded to bearing surfaces. Cap is a smooth, plain surface of suitable material bonded to bearing surfaces of test specimen to distribute load during strength tests. We use sulfur caps before for testing course. Likewise, that is capacity. Cap goes to capacity. A measure of rated volume of a particular concrete mixer or agitator, usually limited by specifications to a maximum percentage of total gross volume, that is capacity. Measure of related volume of a particular concrete mixer or agitator, usually limited by specifications, the maximum percentage of total gross volume. Output of concrete aggregate. Output of concrete aggregate or other product for unit of time is plant capacity or screen capacity, load carrying limit of a structure. Capacity reduction factor. We have to ensure that nominal strength is achieved. Capillarity is a movement of liquid in interstices of concrete. Movement of liquid in interstices of concrete, soil or other finely porous material. We say capillarity. Movement of liquid in interstices of concrete, soil or other finely porous material due to surface tension, also called capillary rise, capillary action or capillary suction. I redefine movement of liquid in interstices of concrete, I define capillary rise, capillary type and capillary action. So what's capillary here? Movement of liquid in interstices of concrete, soil or other finely porous material due to surface tension, also called capillary rise, capillary action or capillary suction. Capillary pores, microscopic channels within hydrated paste, microscopic channels within hydrated paste. Then we can say carbon black. Carbon black. A finely divided form, a finely divided form of carbon, a finely divided form of carbon produced by combustion or partial decomposition of hydrocarbon. We are talking of carbon black. A finely divided, finely F-I-N-L-Y, finely divided form of carbon produced by combustion or partial decomposition of hydrocarbons. Partial decomposition of hydrocarbons or combustion. Used as admixture to color concrete. Finely divided form of carbon produced by combustion or partial decomposition of hydrocarbons and used as an admixture to color concrete. Carbonation. What is carbonation? Reaction between carbon dioxide and a hydroxide or oxide to form a carbonate, especially in cement paste, mortar or concrete, a reaction with calcium compounds to produce calcium carbonate. Again I say carbonation is reaction between carbon dioxide and hydroxide or oxide to form carbonate, especially in cement paste, mortar or concrete. Carbonation, shrinkage resulting from carbonation, and cast stone. Cast stone. Concrete or mortar cast into blocks or small slabs in special molds to resemble natural building stone. Castable refractory. A packaged dry mixer. Castable refractory is a packaged dry mixer. I must touch my leg. It's a big problem sometimes, Touching a leg is also a problem sometimes. Sorry. Wait a minute. Carbonation, shrinkage. Where I was saying. Hold on, please. Carbonation, shrinkage resulting from carbonation, and cast stone, concrete or mortar cast into blocks or small slabs in special molds to resemble, you can say, in special molds resemble natural building stone. Castable refractory. A packaged dry mixer of hydraulic cement, generally calcium aluminate cement, you can say hydraulic cement, plus calcium, generally calcium aluminate cement, and specially selected and proportioned refractory aggregates that, when mixed with water, produce refractory concrete or mortar. First, you have to understand refractory. What is refractory? It is some material that can withstand high temperature without problems, without fracture. And that is what we say castable refractory. It's a package of dry mixes of hydraulic cement, generally calcium aluminate cement. Hydraulic cement means calcium aluminate cement, and specially selected and proportioned refractory aggregates. Refractory aggregates, that is, now you have calcium aluminate cement, and also we have refractory aggregate, we can say specially selected and proportioned refractory aggregates that, when mixed with water, produce refractory concrete or mortar. So it's very lucid definition. Calcium aluminate cement and refractory aggregate we have to mix to achieve refractory concrete or mortar. Cast in place concrete. Concrete that is deposited and allowed to harden in place where it is required to be in completed structure, as opposed to precast concrete. Cast in place pile. Concrete pile that is cast with or without a casing in its permanent locations, as distinguished from a precast pile. Cat head. Cat head. A notched wedge. Cat head is a notched wedge placed between two formwork members. A notched wedge placed between two formwork members meeting at oblique angle. A spindle on a hoist. Large round retention nut used on bolts, used as bolt. Cathodic protection. Cathodic protection. Form of corrosion. Form of corrosion protection, wherein one metal is used, one metal is caused to corrode in preference to another, thereby protecting later from corrosion. This is basic definition. Form of corrosion protection, wherein one metal is caused to corrode in preference to others, thereby protecting later from corrosion. Caulk, C-A-U-L-K, caulk. To place a material in a crack or joint with intent of retarding entry of dirt or water, you have to caulk it. It may be joint filler or joint sealant. Cavitation damage. Caulk is to place a material in a crack or joint with intent of retarding entry or dirt, entry of dirt or water. Cavitation damage. Cavitation damage. Pitting of concrete. Pitting of concrete caused by implosion, that is collapse of vapor bubbles. Pitting of concrete caused by imposition, that is collapse of vapor bubbles. In flowing water that form in areas of low pressure and collapse as they enter area of high pressure. Silite, a name used to identify calcium aluminiferrite, constituent of Portland cement. Cavitation damage you saw, it was putting of concrete caused by implosion, that is collapse of vapor bubbles in flowing water that form in areas of too low pressure, and collapse as they enter areas of high pressure. Silite, a name used to identify calcium aluminiferrite constituent. A name, silite, you can say calcium aluminiferrite constituent of Portland cement. Silite, that is. Cellular concrete. Cellular concrete. Just let me check it's little this way. Yeah, that's okay. Says cellular concrete. I'll relax for 1 minute. Sometimes we have to relax or it's difficult to survive. Sometimes it's very important that we have to relax, otherwise it's an issue. There's a report here in between about Mumbai. Daily cases hit 20,000. Mumbai reported 20,181 COVID-19 cases on Thursday, and that is yesterday, January 6, 2022, and it raised from 5,015 last day. It's a very serious matter. So I just by chance opened this page. So, well, all right. Let me see daily cases. It's a very difficult situation. However, I don't know what to do. Mumbai live. All right. So Mumbai 20,081 COVID cases, and here is so 71 Mumbai police personnel test positive in last 24 hours. All right, come back. It's not my time to cities. Let me see what cities say for time being. This is West Bengal. Fresh COVID cases at 15,421. All right. Let's see. We'll go back to our studies. Let's see what India says. Just a minute. Nothing very important. Okay, let's go back to our work. I close this. Sorry for disturbing. I just tried to get some information currently for you too. So here is cellular concrete. Cellular concrete. Interestingly, we have to see this cellular concrete. A low density cellular concrete is low density product consisting of Portland cement. Low density product consisting of Portland cement, cement silica, cement pozzolana, lime pozzolana, pozzolana lime silica paste, or paste containing blends of these ingredients and having a homogeneous void or cell structure attained with gas forming chemicals or foaming agents. It's about foam concrete. In fact, it's called cellular concrete, a low density product consisting of Portland cement, cement silica, cement pozzolan, lime pozzolan, or lime silica paste, or paste containing blends of these ingredients and having a homogeneous void or cell structure attained with gas forming chemicals or foaming agents. Cellular construction is a method of cast in place concrete construction where a large ratio of hollow cores is produced in flat slab. Cement, number of materials that are capable of binding aggregates particles together. Cement bacillus or cement content. Quantity of cement contained in concrete. Quantity of cement contained in concrete, mortar or grout, preferably expressed as mass per unit volume of concrete, mortar or grout. Cement factor or cement gel. What happened? It's not knowing what happened. I don't know. It jammed one, I see. Let's go. Maybe some problem with this We said the cement, so any of a number of materials that are capable of binding aggregate particles, and cement content we have discussed, cement factor, cement gel, and it is cement gel, colloidal material, gel, just like toothpaste we say it's gel, cement gel, colloidal material that makes up major portion of porous mass of which mature hydrated cement paste is consumed. Right, says cement gel is very easy to define. You can say colloidal material that makes up major portion of porous mass. Colloidal portion makes major portion of mass of which mature hydrated cement paste is composed. Cement gun, a machine for pneumatic placement. You can say machine for pneumatic placement of mortar or small aggregate concrete. Cement paint is a paint you can say consisting generally of white Portland cement and water, pigments, hydrated lime, water repellents or hygroscopic salts. Cement paint, that is white Portland cement, water, pigments, hydrated lime, water repellents or hygroscopic salts. Cement paste, binder of concrete. Cement paste is binder of concrete and mortar. Consisting essentially of cement water, hydration products and admixtures together with very finely divided materials included in aggregate. Cement rock, natural impure limestone. It is, you can say, cement rock, natural impure limestone that contains ingredients for production of Portland cement in approximately required proportions. Cementation process of injecting cement grout under pressure into certain types of ground. For example, gravel, fractured rock, to solidify it, says cementation process of injecting cement grout under pressure into certain types of ground. Cement rock is that one as a defined natural impure limestone that contains ingredients for production of Portland cement in approximately required proportions. And cementation process, I said, process of injecting cement grout under pressure into certain types of ground, which can be gravel, fractured rock, to solidify it. Cement bound macadam, a road consisting of crushed stone, crushed slag or gravel and either grout or mortar filler. Cement bound means crushed stone, crushed slag, gravel or either a grout or mortar fill. And when it says cementitious, means having cementing properties. Cementitious material. Pozzolan and hydraulic cements. Cementitious materials, pozzolan and hydraulic cements. You can say fly ash, silica fumes, and slag cement. Cementitious mixture as mortar, concrete, or grout containing hydraulic cement. Centering, false work used in construction of arches, shells, space structures, or whatever continuous structure where entire falsework is lowered, struck, or disinterred as a unit. Central mixer. Central mixer, a stationary concrete mixture from which and freshly mixed concrete is transported to work. Central mixing concrete. Concrete that is completely mixed in stationary mixer from which it is transported to delivery point. Centrifugal process. A process for producing concrete product such as pipe uses an outer form that is rotated about a horizontal axis. Centrifugal process is producing concrete products like pipes that uses an outer form that is rotated about a horizontal axis, and into which concrete is fed by conveyor, also called spinning process. You can see centrifugally cast concrete, dry cast process, packer head process, damp process, and wet cast process. Centrifugally cast concrete. Centrifugally cast concrete compacted by centrifugal action. For example, in manufacture of pipe and poles. Ceramic bond that is result of thermochemical reaction. Ceramic bond, result of thermochemical reactions between materials exposed to temperature approaching freezing point of a mixer. Centrifugal process, you can say producing concrete process pipe, as you said, that is centrifugal process, and also centrifugal cast concrete compacted by centrifugal action, for example in manufacture of pipes and poles. So we have two processes here, one is centrifugal process and a centrifugal cast concrete. In pipe manufacturing, we can say use outer form that is rotated about horizontal axis and into which concrete is fed by conveyor belt, conveyor also called spinning process. And you can say centrifugally cast concrete compacted by centrifugal action, for example manufacture of pipe and poles. That is ceramic bond that is result of thermochemical reaction between material exposed to temperature approaching fusion point of mixer. And chair is bar supports, and chalk is soft limestone composed primarily of calcareous remains of marine organism. Chalking. Formation of loose powder resulting from disintegration of surface of concrete or of applied coating such as cement paint. Chalking. Formation of loose powder resulting from disintegration of surface of concrete or of applied coating such as cement paste. We have here, ceramic bond, hold bond, bond that is result of thermochemical reactions between materials exposed to temperature approaching fusion point of mixer. It's an important one. We say centrifugally cast concrete was now ceramic bond. Ceramic bond that is a result of thermochemical reactions between materials exposed to temperature approaching fusion point of mixer. And here we have seen chalk is seen chalking. Formation of loose powder resulting from disintegration or surface of concrete or of applied coating such as cement paint. Chamfer. Either a beveled edge or corner formed in concrete work by means of a chamfer strip. Chamfer strip, either a triangular or curved inert insert placed in inside form corner to produce either a rounded or flat chamfer or to form a rustication, also called kind strip, fillet, dummy joint or skew back. Charge. To introduce feed or load materials into concrete or mortar mixer, furnace or other container or a receptacle where this will be further treated or processed, called charge material, feed material, load material or introduced material. This is what is terminology into concrete mixer or mortar mixer, and whatever you can say for processing. Checking. Development of shallow cracks at closely spaced but irregular intervals. Closely spaced development of shallow cracks at closely spaced but irregular intervals on surface of plaster, cement paste, mortar or concrete. Chemical admixture. Chemical admixture. A liquid or dispersible powder. A liquid or dispersible powder used as an ingredients. A liquid or dispersible particle powder, a liquid or dispersible powder used as an ingredient in a cementitious mixture to improve its economy and or properties in plastic and or hardened state. A liquid, that's chemical admixture, is a liquid or dispersible powder used as an ingredient in cementitious mixture to improve its economy and or properties in plastics and or hardened state. Alteration or deterioration of concrete. Alteration or chemical attack on concrete, you can say. Alteration or deterioration of concrete through chemical reaction or just presence of chemicals with either cement paste, coarse aggregate or embedded steel reinforcement. Chemical attack. Chemical bond between materials, that is result of cohesion or adhesion developed by chemical reaction. All right. So let's say process chemical attack on concrete, then chemical bond, then chemically pre-stressing cement. Chemically pre-stressing cement. Type of expensive cement. A type of expensive cement containing a higher percentage of expensive component than a shrinkage compensating cement. When used in concrete with adequate internal or external restraint that expands sufficiently due to chemical reactions within matrix to develop stress necessary for pre-stressing concrete. Chemically pre-stressing cement, a type of expensive cement containing higher percentage of expensive component than a shrinkage compensation. Okay. Chemically pre-stressing cement, again a type of expensive cement, not money wise, expansion wise, containing a higher percentage of expensive component than a shrinkage compensating cement. When used in concrete with adequate internal or external restraint that will expand insufficiently as when used in concrete with adequate internal or external restraint that will expand sufficiently due to chemical reactions within matrix of develop stress necessary for pre-stressing concrete. Chert, chert A very fine grained very fine grained siliceous rock, chain rock, characterized by hardness, and you can say coshoidal fracture. What is that coshoidal? Let me see chart here. A very fine grain siliceous rock characterized by hardness and conchoidal fracture in dense varieties, fracture becoming splintery and hardness decreasing in porous varieties and in variety of colors, composed of silica in form of chalcedony, cryptocrystalline or microcrystalline quartz, opal, or a combination of these minerals. A very finely grained siliceous rock characterized by hardness and conchoidal fracture in dense varieties, fracture becoming splintery and hardness decreasing in porous varieties and in a variety of colors, composed of silica in form of chalcedony, cryptocrystalline or microcrystalline quartz, opal, or a combination of these minerals. We say treatment, that is chipping, treatment of a hardened concrete surface by chiseling. That is chipping. We chip out for purpose of roughening surface. A ply was used so that we can apply plaster or rending onto that. So it's chipping only, chip with chisel or by equipment, so that latence is removed from surface. Chipping chips broken fragments of marble or other mineral aggregate screened to specified sizes. A slope, that is shoot, a sloping trough. Chute is a sloping trough or tube for conducting concrete, cement, aggregate, or other free-flowing materials from higher to lower point. Clamp, okay, class of concrete. Class of concrete. An arbitrary characterization of concrete of various qualities or usages, usually by compressive strength. Class of concrete. An arbitrary characterization of concrete of various qualities or usages and defined by designated by compressive strength. Classifier, machine for separating coarse and fine particles of granular material. That is called classifier. It's a machine for separating coarse and fine particles of granular material. Clay. Clay is natural mineral. Clay is natural mineral material having plastic properties and composed of very fine particles. Clay mineral fraction of soil is usually considered to be portion consisting of particles finer than 2 micrometer. Clay minerals are essentially hydrous aluminum silicate or occasionally hydrous magnesium silicate. It's important definition. This is clay, important soil, natural mineral. It is a natural mineral material. Material means natural minerals are available. Natural mineral material having plastic properties. And composed of very fine particles. Clay mineral fraction of soil. Clay mineral fraction of soil is usually considered to be portion consisting of particles finer than 0.002 or 2 micrometer. Clay minerals are essentially hydrous aluminum silicates, or occasionally hydrous magnesium silicate. The clay content. Mass fraction of clay of a homogeneous material such as soil or a natural concrete aggregate or crust stone. It is, you can say, clay content is mass fraction of clay of a homogeneous material such we may say clay content is a mass fraction of clay of heterogeneous material such as soil or a natural concrete aggregate or crushed stone. Clean out. Clean out. An opening in form of removal of refuse to be closed before concrete is placed, or a part or a pot in tanks, bins or other receptacles for inspection and cleaning. Clean up. Treatment of horizontal construction joint. Treatment of horizontal construction joints to remove surface material and contamination down to a condition of soundness corresponding to that of freshly broken. What is that? Clean up. Clean up, that is treatment of horizontal construction joints to remove surface materials and contamination down to condition of soundness corresponding to that of a fresh broken surface of hardened concrete. Cleat, CLEAT. Cleat is a small board used to connect formwork. This is small board used to connect formwork. Members are used as a brace, also butt in. So here's that. A small board used to connect formwork. Member or used as brace. Climbing form. Climbing form, a form that is raised vertically for succeeding lifts of concrete in a structure. This climbing form defined as a form that is raised vertically for succeeding lift of concrete in a structure. Clinker, a partially fused product of a kiln, which is ground to make cement. Also this clinker we are talking, a partially fused product of a kiln. A partially fused product of a kiln which is ground to make cement. Also other vitrified or burnt material. And it is a clinker. It is partially fused product of kiln which is ground to make current cement. To make cement, also other vitrified or burnt material. It is partially fused product of a kiln which is ground to make current, also other vitrified or burnt material. Clip, wire or sheet metal device used to attach various types of lath to support or to secure adjacent lath sheets. Coarse aggregate, coarse aggregate. Aggregate predominantly retained on 4.75 mm. Aggregate predominantly retained on 4.75 mm or number 4 sieve, or that portion retained on 4.75 mm. You can say aggregate that are retained on 4.75 mm, sieve, or that portion written on this. coarse aggregate factor. Ratio expressed as decimal. Ratio expresses decimal of amount, mass or solid volume. Ratio expressed as decimal or of an amount, mass or solid volume, that is coarse aggregate in a unit volume of well proportional concrete to amount of dry rodded coarse aggregate compacted into same volume. This says coarse coarse aggregate means that is retained on aggregate that is written 4.75 MCU, that portion retained on that portion retained on 4.75 MCU. Coarse aggregate factor ratio expressed as a decimal of amount, mass or solid volume of coarse aggregate in a unit volume. Amount, mass or solid volume of coarse aggregate in unit volume of well proportioned concrete. So we can say coarse aggregate factor is ratio expressed as decimal of amount, mass or solid volume of coarse aggregate in a unit volume of well proportioned concrete to an amount of dry rounded coarse aggregate compacted into same volume. So this is the ratio amount of mass or solid volume of coarse aggregate to volume to Okay, now little disturbance in line, so here I am back, and this was said coarse aggregate factor. Now we go back to we are taking coarse grained soil. Coarse grained soil, in this case, coarse grained soil. What is that? Soil in which larger grain sizes such as sand and gravel predominate. It's called coarse grained soil. Soil in which larger grain sizes such as sand or gravel predominate, coat a film or layer as of paint or plaster. Coat is a film or layer as of paint or plaster applied in single operation. Coated bar, a bar on which a coating has been applied, usually to increase resistance to corrosion. Coated bar, a bar on which coating has been applied, usually to increase resistance to corrosion. Coating, that is on concrete, on aggregate particle, on architectural concrete. And let's say one by one what is on concrete. Coating, that is material applied to surface of concrete by brushing, dipping, mopping, spraying, and troweling to preserve, protect, decorate, seal, or smoothen substrata. That is on concrete. Applied is coating applied to surface by brushing, dipping, mopping, spraying, and troweling to preserve, protect, decorate, seal, or smoothen substrata. Aggregate particles, foreign or deleterious substances found adhering to aggregate particles. Architectural concrete, materials used to protect a concrete surface from atmospheric contaminants and those that penetrate slightly and leave a visible clear or pigmented film on surface. An organic compound applied to fabric before and after weaving to increase durability and stability of fabric and allowing for ease of handling and installation. Cobble. Cobble is geology, a rock fragmented. In geology, a rock fragmented between 2.5 and you can say 64 mm and 256 mm. To have half inches and 10 inches, and you can say 64 mm and 256 mm in diameter. A geology, a rock fragment between 64 and 256 mm diameter as applied to coarse aggregate for concrete. Material nominal size range, we can say between 75 to 150 mm. These are cobblestone, a rock fragment, usually rounded or semi-rounded, with an average dimension 75 and 3 mm. Here some again problem. Coefficient of permeability of water, permeability to water, rate of discharge of water under laminar flow conditions through a unit cross sectional area, which we can say coefficient of, okay, let's see, coefficient of permeability water, rate of discharge of water, rate of discharge of water under laminar flow conditions through a unit cross sectional area of a porous medium under unit hydraulic gradient. You can say laminar water condition through a unit cross sectional area of porous medium under unit hydraulic gradient and standard temperature conditions, that is 20 degrees Celsius usually. That is called coefficient of permeability of water, 20 degrees. So we can say that is discharge of water, discharge of laminar flow water, you may say discharge of laminar flow water through unit cross sectional area of porous material under unit hydraulic gradient and 20 degrees Celsius temperature normally. Coefficient of subgrade friction, coefficient of subgrade friction, coefficient of friction between slab and its subgrade, commonly used in design of slab on grade to estimate force induced in slab due to volume change and elastic shortening if pre-stressed. Coefficient of subgrade friction, coefficient of subgrade friction, coefficient of friction between a slab and its subgrade, commonly used in designs of slab on grade to estimate force induced in slab due to volume change and elastic shortening. Coefficient of subgrade reaction, ratio of load per unit area of soil to corresponding settlement of soil. Ratio of load per unit area of soil to corresponding settlement of soil, typically evaluated in place per ASTM, also called modulus of subgrade reaction. Ratio of load per unit area of soil to corresponding settlement. That is subgrade reaction or modulus of subgrade reaction. Sorry. Coefficient of subreduction. Coefficient of thermal expansion. Change in linear dimension. Change in linear dimension per unit length per degree temperature change, that is coefficient of thermal expansion, change in linear dimension per unit length per degree temperature change. Coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation. Standard variation or standard deviation, you can say coefficient of variation. Standard deviation divided by mean value of variable. Seconds when video 0, audio 0. 17 fps, well, efficient I think is okay, but video 0, still 0, still 0, still 0. Maybe it is down, I can't say. Already 2 hours 30 minutes, it's going to be down for sure. Something comes, but again down 1 fps. So cold joint, a joint or discontinuity, a joint or discontinuity resulting from decay. Cold joint is joint or continuity, joint or discontinuity resulting from a delay. A joint or discontinuity resulting from a delay in placement of sufficient duration to preclude intermingling and bonding of material, or where mortar or plaster region rejoin or meet. Cold joint. Its definition, which is discontinuity, a joint or discontinuity which results from delay in placing sufficient duration, placing or placement of sufficient duration to preclude intermingling and bonding of material, or where mortar or plaster rejoin or meet. Cold strength. Cold strength, compressive or flexural strength of refractory concrete. Compressive or flexural strength of refractory concrete determined before drying in firing. Cold weather, when air temperature has fallen to or is expected to fall below 4 degrees Celsius. During protection period is defined Time recommended to prevent concrete from being adversely affected by exposure to cold weather during construction. When air temperature has fallen to or expected to fall below 4 degrees Celsius. During protection period is defined. Time recommended to prevent concrete from being adversely affected by exposure to cold weather during construction. Cold drawn wire made from rods that are hot rolled from billets and then cold drawn through dies. Cold drawn is wire made from rods that are hot rolled from billets, hot rolled from billets and then cooled down through dies. Cold drawn wire reinforcement. Cold drawn wire reinforcement. Steel wire made from rods that have been hot rolled from billets and cold drawn through a die. Cold joint lines. Visible lines on surface of formed concrete. Visible lines on surface of formed concrete indicating presence of discontinuities. Visible lines on surfaces of formed concrete indicating presence of discontinuities where one layer of concrete had reached final set before subsequent concrete was placed. Cold worked steel reinforcement. Cold worked steel reinforcement. Steel bars or wires that have been rolled. Steel bars or wires that have been rolled, twisted or drawn at normal ambient temperature. Colmanite, a mineral hydrated calcium borate, that is colmanite, that is calcium borate or boron loaded concrete, Ca2 is 6O10 5H2O. Collated fiber. Fibers bundled together either by cross-linking or by chemical or mechanical means. Collated fiber. Colloidal grout in which a substantial proportion of solid particles have size range of colloid. Colloidal mixer designed to produce colloidal grout. Color hardener. Color hardener. Similar to traditional one component hardener, one component hardener having additional constituent materials. One component hardener having additional constituent materials formulated to color concrete surface. Calorimeter value, an indication of amount of organic impurities present in aggregate. Calorimetric value, indication of amount of organic impurities present in fine aggregate. Column, member with ratio of height to least lateral dimensions exceeding 3, used primarily to support axial compressive load. Column capital, enlargement of column below slab intended to increase shearing resistance. Column clamp, various types of tying or fastenings units to hold column form sides together. Column clamps, various types of tying or fastenings units to hold column forms sides together. Column clamp, this is column side. Vertical panel components of column forms. Column strip, portion of flat slab over columns and consisting of two adjacent quarters panels on each side of column center line. Portion of flat slab over columns and consisting of two adjacent quarter panels on each side of column center line. Combined footing, a structural unit or assembly, of units supporting more than one column. A structural unit or assembly of units supporting more than one column. Combined aggregate grading, particle size distribution, of a mixture of fine and coarse aggregate. Combined grading, that is combined aggregate grading, particle size distribution of a mixture of fine and coarse aggregate. Come along, a hoe-like tool with a blade approximately 100 mm high and 500 mm wide, work and curved from top to bottom. Used for spreading concrete. A colloquial name of device, load binder, used to tighten chains holding loads in place of a truck bed. So, it says come along is a hoe-like tool with a blade approximately 100 mm high and 500 mm wide, curved from top to bottom, used for spreading concrete. Compacted strand. Compacted strand, that is pre-stressing strand that is drawn through a circular die to deform wires and produce a strand with a smaller circular shape. Pre-stressing strand that is drawn through a circular die to deform wires and produce a strand with similar smaller circular shape. Compacting factor, ratio obtained by dividing observed mass of concrete that fills a container of standard size and shape. When allowed to fall into under standard condition of test by mass of fully compacted concrete that fills same container. Compacting factor is ratio obtained by dividing observed mass of concrete that fills a container of standard size and shape when allowed to fall into it under standard conditions of test by mass of fully compacted concrete that fills same container. Compaction. Process of reducing volume of wires. Process of reducing volume of wires in a material such as soil by input of mechanical energy. Composite. Engineering material made from two or more constituent materials that remain distinct but combine to form materials with properties not possessed by any of constituent material individually. Engineering materials made from two or more constituent materials. Engineering materials made from two or more constituent materials that remain distinct but combine to form materials with properties not possessed by any of constituent materials individually. Composite column. A concrete compression member reinforced longitudinally with structured steel shapes. With structural steel shapes, pipes or rubbing or tubing with or without longitudinal reinforcement bars. Concrete flexural members. Concrete flexural members consist of concrete elements constructed in separate placements but so interconnected that elements respond to loads as a unit. Composite construction a type of construction using members produced by combining different materials. We can say concrete and structural steel. Members produced by combining cast in place and precast concrete or cast in place concrete elements constructed in separate placements but so interconnected that combined components act together as single member and respond to loads as unit. Composite construction using members produced by combining different materials. Members produced by combining cast in place and precast concrete or cast in place concrete elements constructed in separate placements but so interconnected that combined components act together as single member and respond to loads as unit. Composite pile. A pile made up of different materials, usually concrete and wood or steel, fastened together end to end to form a single pile. Composite sample. Sample obtained by blending two or more individual samples of material. Compression flange. Widened portion of an IUT or similar cross-sectional beam that is compressed by bending under normal loads. Compression member. The compression member in which primary stress is longitudinal compression. Compression reinforcement. Reinforcement designed to carry compressive stresses. Compression test. Test made on test specimen of mortar or concrete to determine compressive strength. Concentric tendons. Tendons following a line. Coincident tendons following a line coincident with gravity axis of pre-stressed concrete member. Concordant tendon. A tendon with a profile that does not produce secondary moments. A tendon with a profile that does not produce secondary moments and support reactions due to pre-stress force. A tendon with a profile that does not produce secondary moments and support reaction due to pre-stressing. Mixture of hydraulic cement, aggregate and water, with or without admixture. fibers or cementitious materials. Concrete block. The concrete masonry unit usually containing hollow cores. The concrete breakout failure. A concrete failure model, concrete failure mode that develops a cone or edge failure, of test member due to setting of anchor or applied loads. A concrete failure, that is breakout failure, concrete failure mode that develops a cone or edge failure, or test member that due to setting of anchor or applied loads. Concrete brick. Solid concrete masonry units of relatively small prescribed dimensions and concrete compressive strength. Measured maximum resistance of a concrete specimen to axial compressive loading. Measured maximum resistance of concrete specimen to axial compressive loading and expressed as force per unit cross-sectional area. Concrete containment structure. A composite concrete and steel assembly that is designed as an integral part of a pressure retaining barrier that in an emergency prevents release of radioactive or hazardous effluents from nuclear power plant equipment enclosed therein. Concrete containment structure. This is concrete containment structure, composite concrete and steel assembly designed as an integral part of a pressure retaining barrier that in emergency prevents release of radioactive or hazardous effluents from nuclear power plant equipment enclosed therein. Concrete cover. Distance between outermost surface of embedded reinforcement and closest outer surface of concrete. Concrete die. Colorant for concrete that is applied to concrete whilst in solution and results in a stained appearance. Concrete dyes do not produce color-Y chemical reaction. Concrete finishing machine. Concrete finishing machine. A machine mounted on flanged wheels. That ride on forms or on specially set tracks used to finish surfaces such as those of pavements. A portable power driven machine for floating and finishing floors and other slabs. Concrete flat work. Concrete flat work, a general term applicable to concrete floors and also slabs that require finishing operations. Concrete masonry unit, either a hollow or solid unit, block composed of Portland cement, concrete. Concrete paver, a slip forming machine that places concrete pavement, you can say slip forming machine, that's concrete paver, slip forming machine that places concrete pavement on subgrade precast concrete paving brick. And concrete producer, person, firm or entity responsible for producing and delivering concrete for work. Concrete pry-out strength corresponding to formation of concrete, spall behind short, stiff anchors displaced in direction opposite to applied shear force. What is that? Concrete pry-out strength corresponding to formation of concrete, spall behind short, stiff anchors displaced in direction opposite to applied shear force. And this is concrete press. So concrete pump, an apparatus that forces concrete to placing position through a pipeline or hose. Concrete reactor vessel, a composite concrete and steel assembly that functions as a component of principal pressure containing barrier for nuclear fuels, primary heat extraction fluid, primary coolant, concrete reactor vessel. I'll give 5 minutes, come back. 5 minutes please. Sorry, gentlemen, little late, but it's all like happens. It happens as usual. So we go to next one after concrete reactor vessel. We discussed about concrete reactor vessel, a composite concrete and steel assembly that functions as component of principal pressure. A composite concrete and steel assembly that functions as component of principal pressure containing barrier for nuclear fuels, primary heat extraction, fluid, primary coolant. You can say concrete reactor vessel. Now, concrete finishing machine. Concrete finishing machine mounted on flanged wheels so that ride on forms or on, you can say, sorry, concrete spreader. I think I was doing wrong. Concrete spreader a machine usually carried on side forms or on rails parallel thereto, designed to spread concrete from heaps already dumped in front of it, or to receive and spread concrete in uniform layers. Concrete spreader machine usually carried on side forms or on rails parallel thereto, designed to spread concrete from heaps already dumped in front, or to receive and spread concrete in uniform layers. Concrete spreader. Concrete strength, concrete compressive strength, fatigue strength, flexural strength, shear strength, splitting tensile strength, and ultimate strength. Concreting or concrete vibrating machine, a machine that consolidates a layer of freshly mixed concrete by vibration. Cone bolt, a type of tie rod for wall forms with cones at each end inside forms, so that bolt can act as spreader as well as tie. Confined concrete, concrete within reinforcement cage. Concrete within reinforcement cage. Confined region, region with transverse reinforcement within beam column joints. Confined region, region with transverse reinforcement within beam column joints. Consistency, degree to which a freshly mixed concrete, mortar, grout or cement paste resists deformation. Degree to which a freshly mixed concrete, mortar, grout or cement pastes resist deformation. Consistency, normal consistency, plastic consistency, etc. Consistency factor. consistency factor. This is a measure of grout fluidity. A measure of grout fluidity, roughly analogous in viscosity. A measure of grout fluidity, roughly analogous to viscosity, which describes ease with which grout may be pumped into voids or fissures. Usually a laboratory measurement in which consistency is reported in degrees of rotation of torque viscosometer in specimen of grout. Consistometer, an apparatus for measuring consistency of cement paste, mortars, grout or concretes. Consistometer, measuring consistency of cement paste, mortar, grout or concretes. Consolidation, process of reducing volume of voids in pockets and entrapped air in fresh cementitious mixture, usually accomplished by inputting mechanical energy. Construction joint, interface between concrete placements intentionally created to facilitate construction. Okay, now I think it's time to close. Construction loads to which a permanent or temporary structure is subject during construction. Contact ceiling, ceiling that is secured in direct contact with construction above without use of furring. Contact pressure acting at and perpendicular to contact area between soil and concrete element. Contact ceiling that is secured in direct contact with construction above without use of furring. Contact splice means a means of connecting reinforcing bars in which bars are lapped and in direct contact. Containment structures designed to be liquid tight containment structures. Continuous beam, okay. Continuous grading, a particle size distribution in which intermediate size fractions are present as opposed to gap grading. Continuous mixture, continuous grading was a particle size distribution in which intermediate size fractions are present as opposed to gap grading. Continuous mixer, a mixture into which a mixer, into which ingredients of mixer are fed without stoppings. Well, now this is page, I think is this, which page is this? This is 28, 20 page 20. Page 20. This was very slow today, but it happens. And I think it's an only way that we have to move forward with this. And I think I'll take up later. Now we close it. We'll take up later. We have to close it now. I think I should thank you very much for this. Just take this little closer page, and we close it. Thank you very much, gentlemen.